Hey there, Cambrian Explosion listeners. We are your hosts, Yaur and Nabil, back with a an interesting episode for you guys today. We want to talk about a little bit about the Canadian federal elections that have been kind of like the campaign has been going on for the last month or so. And there have been some interesting results so far. Obviously, the main election itself is on the 28th, Monday. There has been an Easter long weekend, and we're on another weekend right now, and there's been some interesting developments. I think Nabil and I, we want to discuss this a little bit and talk about if there's some significance behind the results that we're seeing so far. So let me actually share an interesting article that we found over here. So the BBC reports that early turnout shatters record in Canadian polls with 7.3 million ballots cast, more than 7 million cast ballots in advance. So this is not even on the main election day itself, but before that. And full disclosure, Nabil and I both voted in advance. The federal elections body, which manages the federal elections, it collects these numbers and has reported these numbers. Polling stations were open from Friday to Monday over the Easter long weekend. Poll workers reported long lines with 2 million people on Friday alone. That actually backs up some Reddit conversations that have been flowing online in the Toronto forums, where people have been reporting huge numbers and lineups and very long hour-plus lineups for advance voting on Fridays. Less than 1 week to go before Election Day on 28th April, or as we say in Canada, April 28th. Federal leaders are now in the final stretch of campaigning. Voters will decide which party will govern. As you know, in Canada, the party is elected to govern rather than directly electing a prime minister. Amid the ongoing trade war with the U.S. and President Donald Trump's repeated comments about making Canada the 51st U.S. state. Elections Canada has given us these numbers. Mail-in voting is up as well. Many people have mailed in their vote. Latest polling suggests the Liberals have a 5-point lead over the Conservative. Liberal leader Mark Carney, who is also currently the interim prime minister, has been holding events in various provinces, and so has Conservative leader Carney is a former central banker who has been heavily relying on his economics background, and criticizing Pierre Poilievre uh, due to his lack of such background. His president has implemented blanket 25% tariffs. That's a huge deal. And nobody in Canada is happy with the US right now. Canada is also hit with global tariffs on steel and aluminum and cars. As you know, the majority of our trade is with the US, and we have suffered from massive temporary layoffs in the auto sector. As you can see here, the Liberals have gotten themselves a quite comfortable margin here, and the margin developed after Justin Trudeau resigned back in January, and you can see the steady uptick of Liberal polling almost immediately since Justin Trudeau's resignation. It's quite remarkable that this line started just almost immediately shooting up after that happened.
I think the other interesting piece that's not on that graph is that's also around the time that we start hearing the 51st state of the U.S.
Mm,
marks out of Trump. It's about
right.
the same time that we start hearing that, and
True.
you see. Uh, 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 when you look at it from the perspective of when does the decline of the conservatives start, it's not at the
Mm,
same time. The decline of the conservatives is a little later that it starts. It's basically, first off, you see NDP votes shifting from NDP to the liberals first, and then you see
mm,
conservatives start to move in the other direction. So it's interesting when you end up mapping what's happening in the US on this graph. You start getting an interesting other view as well in terms of how
yeah.
Canada is getting affected by statements out of the US.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting if you can analyze these lines and the way they're related to each other, and tell some very interesting things. We can discuss that for sure. But just to finish up here, the leaders have been campaigning and focusing on various issues. As we know, as we broadly know what they are by now, I'm going to not really dig into too much, but I'm just going to say that Pierre Poilievre has been advocating for austerity, economic, while dressing it up as choosing hope and future. But basically, he wants to uh, do the usual thing that conservatives do, right? Cut taxes and put money in the pockets of rich people. That's just my impression and understanding. Bloc Québécois, which wants us to separate Quebec from Canada, is in the third place, while NDP is trailing far behind in fourth place. So interestingly, even Bloc Québécois seems to be ahead of NDP right now. So interesting article I found, especially with this chart, as you yourself have been pointing out, Nabil. This tells us a lot, quite a lot, and I think we have a couple of things. I have a point that I want to make, but before that, Nabil, what do you think about all this?
Happening in the US is quite interesting, and when you map it on top of this, as I mentioned before, you start getting interesting news stories out of it. Part of the discussion here, as you were mentioning, that Bloc Québécois is leading. I think a lot of the NDP vote has shifted to the Liberal Party. I think that Trump's statements has also meant conservative votes have shifted to the Liberal Party. I feel, however, that whoever ends up winning is still going to face a very challenging time with Trump on the other side. It's whoever ends up winning with with Trump stating clearly that he wants Canada to be absorbed into the US, the next 2 to 3 years are going to be very, very interesting to see. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I want to echo what you said a little bit here, that initially it looked like the liberal bump was coming out of the cannibalized NDP vote, but the pattern seems to have changed a little bit in recent days, where the NDP bump post around April 25th-ish, the Easter long weekend-ish, has been kind of slightly different from the NDP down decline. But anyway, like, this is trying to read the tea leaves a little bit. Like, the main point that I wanted to make was that, to me, this election uh, feels like a referendum on Donald Trump. Like,
Yeah.
what do Canadians think of Donald Trump? And Canadians have been making their thoughts known by coming to the polls as early as possible. It feels like we want to make our voices heard as quickly as possible, that we really don't like what's been going on. And we have been casting our vote in, like, the best of all of the options that we have available to us. Maybe we don't like the liberals, perhaps. Nobody loves the liberals outside of their core base, but people realize that it's a kind of a necessity of the moment right now.
I agree with you. I think that it's a fear-based voting. It's a voting of, hey, we don't want Trump, rather than this
Yeah,
is a future of Canada that we imagine, and we have a
yeah.
party that's giving us a vision that we want to uh, implement.
Because people see Polyev as Trump 2.0 or Trump Light or Trump Canadian version, right? So I think that's basically the idea here.
I will also bring into it the play that the dates that you have mentioned in
Right.
your diagram over there, the bumps that are happening. There's this nice little bump where that line is. um, uh, for the square on where the
Yeah, yeah.
where the two squares are intersecting on the other side, if you
Oh,
follow
okay.
the liberal line, you're just going shooting up straight, that this between here, and if you go below, no, the other,
Right.
yeah, here, this little line, right?
Yeah, yeah,
This is the impact of, in my opinion, the tariffs. This is really the impact of the tariffs over here. This is when the
yeah,
tariffs really what Trump starts making those announcements, the stock market
yeah.
starts responding, and
Right, right.
the business class, there's a bunch of who are more conservative leaning, um, are like, like, what's happening here? We're gonna get hurt in this tariff wars. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. Even conservatives have been kind of like they've had their uh like like basically their heads have been rattled a little bit. Their fears have been kind of because they've been hid in their wallets, and that's where they're most sensitive.
yeah.
And even you would think that ideologically they would be aligned, but the greatest ideology seems to be the wallet, right? So
I
yeah,
think this is where I would this episode is probably going to come out
yeah,
uh, on either election day or right after. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
I will love to hear um, the thoughts of our viewers in terms of how they have felt through this election, and where their heads are at.
Right.
I'm wondering if you have anything else to add to this discussion, or shall we call it quits here?
I think this is basically what we wanted to say here. This is important to say, I think, but it's still just an interesting tidbit, and we'll see in a few days. Advanced voting is still, I believe, going on. Uh, in various Elections Canada offices throughout the country. But on election day itself, April 28th, Monday, we will see. Canada's election system is highly regarded throughout the world. We have a very high integrity election system. There's high trust in the system, and I kind of like really I'm proud of those aspects of it, and many people are rightly proud of that. I've seen funny comments online from right wing troll bots that apparently Pierre Polyev is going to win the popular vote, and there's going to be trouble if the conservatives don't win. So you can easily see that these bots have been programmed to talk about popular vote, which as you know, there's no such thing in Canada.
Hmm.
So the they're clearly talking about American style electoral college versus popular vote. So it's kind of funny to see that all of these bots working overtime to spread conservative fears and biases.
Yeah, yeah, I follow.
Yeah,
I follow.
yeah, yeah.
We will catch you in the next episode. Talk to you guys soon.